If you're familiar with the sports card industry, you've heard about the 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle card before, but have you heard the story behind why this card is so iconic? I'm Frank from Trove, and welcome back to our Journey to Collectible series, where we highlight the incredible stories behind some of the most important items on the planet. On the Collectable platform, they have a PSA 8 graded copy of this Grail card, the 52 Topps Mantle. So for today's episode, I really want to take a deep dive into this card and tell you the story behind it, and to really paint the picture for why this is the most coveted sports card in the entire industry. First, to understand why 52 Topps is so iconic, let's lay some background on the cards that led up to this set. In 1948, the Bowman Gum Company released their first baseball card set, and they really stepped up as the industry leader in the space. And at that period of time, Topps never even released a set. In 1949 was the first time Topps ever released any type of card, and it was actually Magic cards that they gave away for free in packs of gum. In 1951, Topps officially jumped into the baseball card market when they released their red back and blue back sets. Each of these sets had 52 cards, and Topps designed them to be played as a game. So if you take a look at these cards, each of them have a play in the top left and bottom right corners, such as foul ball or single or double. And the idea was for kids to be able to play these games with other kids to have a lot of fun. But there were a few big problems with this set. First, kids weren't interested in playing the game. Second, it was a super small checklist. It was Topps' first time doing baseball cards, so they didn't have contracts with many major leaguers at the time, hence why it was only 52 cards. And third, at the time, Topps believed that Bowman had the exclusive rights to put bubble gum with their trading cards, so instead Topps put taffy in their product. It was an absolute bust because the taffy had a bad odor and nobody wanted to be opening up these packs. And this is when the legend of Cy Berger really begins. He's now considered the father of modern day baseball cards. He did two things really important for Topps leading up to this 1952 set. First, he spent extensive time in MLB clubhouses signing a ton of players to contracts, because at the time in 1951, it was only 52 cards in the red back set. So he worked really hard to be able to expand the checklist to have more notable players. And second, most importantly, he really went to the drawing board and revolutionized what a baseball card looked like. And this is what made the 1952 set so important. Baseball cards have been around since the 1800s, so what did Topps do for this 1952 Topps set that was so different than what collectors were used to? First, the cards were just bigger. Right on the packaging of the boxes and the packs, Topps marketed this product as giant-sized baseball cards, and they looked different than what Bowman was creating. These cards were nearly 50% bigger, and it really caught the eyes of collectors. Some other really smart things that Topps did on the front of these cards: they added the logo of the team that the player was on. They also added a printed autograph of the player. I think that those two elements added collectability, but the most important element on the front of the cards that Topps added that really was different from what we were seeing in the decades prior was they made the face of the player very prominent on the card. A lot of cards leading up to this were action shots, but what Topps really wanted to do was make the face of the player very recognizable, because these card sets were for kids. These kids were going to idolize these players, want to collect these cards, so they really wanted to make the face of the player the center most important thing on the entire card. But I would argue that what Topps did on the back of these baseball cards was even more important than what they changed on the front. There was really three main elements to look at when we look at the backs of a 1952 Topps baseball card. First, on the top of the back, they have the biography of the player, their height, their position, the team they play for, their birthday, what hand they throw with, if they bat righty or lefty. Second, in the middle, they added a quick little story about the player, maybe something that people didn't know about, to add an extra layer of familiarity and for you to be able to collect your favorite players and to learn something that you may not have known prior. And third, the smartest thing that I believe Topps ever did was they decided to add statistics on the back of these cards. And in terms of collectability with little kids, this was the best thing that they could have done at the time. And in the present day, this might not feel like a big deal, but think through the lens of 1952. Where were these kids going to find stats of their favorite players? They didn't have an iPhone where they could just scroll and figure out their favorite player stats in the fraction of a second. But now on the back of these baseball cards, they can figure out the lifetime stats, their batting average, their home runs, their hits, and kids absolutely loved it. And a fun fact about the stats that Topps put on the back of these 1952 cards is that it has past year stats and lifetime stats. The reason why Topps didn't actually write the year of the season prior was they were scared that these packs and these cards weren't going to sell, and they didn't want the cards to feel dated if they had to take a few years to actually be able to move all this product. And when Topps started to sell these packs in the spring, demand was super high, kids were loving them, and because of this, Topps decided to create 6 different series of 52 Topps, and it spanned 407 total cards. So by the time they got to the 6th series, football season started. It was after the World Series. Kids weren't paying attention to baseball anymore, and nobody really cared about the packs. And many cases of this product went unsold, and Cy Berger himself tells the story how in 1960, he had hundreds of cases of 1952 Topps sitting in his warehouse, and he decided to put them on a garbage barge and dump it into the Atlantic Ocean because nobody wanted to buy it. And guess which card was included in this high number series that Topps couldn't even give away the packs, that they decided to dump them into the ocean? And yep, you guessed it, it's card number 311, the iconic Mickey Mantle card. So after discussing why the 52 Topps set in general is so important, why is the Mickey Mantle card the most valuable? Why is it seen as the chase card in the set? Because if we look at Mickey Mantle in general, his rookie card was from 1951 Bowman. 52 Topps wasn't his first card. If we look at other players in this generation, there were other really elite superstars, guys like Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Ted Williams. Why does Mickey Mantle sell for the most? And why is he the #1 chase card from this era? And Mickey Mantle cards sell for more than anybody else because he was the face of the biggest brand in all of American sports. Mickey Mantle won 7 World Series, 3 MVPs as the face of the New York Yankees as their center fielder, and nobody else in that generation could say the same thing. And with modern sports cards, we see things like being in a big media market, winning championship games, always being discussed in the media as being very helpful things for a card market and creating a lot of buzz. Well, all of this could be said true for Mickey Mantle more than any other player in baseball history. Mickey Mantle was seen as a superhero, so when we're talking about arguably the most collectible baseball player of all time being included in this iconic 1952 Topps set, which is the greatest set ever created, it's the perfect storm to create a card, especially when we look at this Mantle card in really high grades having a super low supply. It creates a situation where everybody wants it and there's virtually none of them available in the market. And to look at how rare the 52 Topps Mantle is in a high grade, let's just look at the pop reports. There's only 3 PSA 10s, there's 6 PSA 9s. Rob G in January of 2021 bought one of these PSA 9s for $5.2 million. And there's only 35 PSA 8 copies, which the copy on Collectable is, meaning it's within the top 2% of the highest graded copies in the entire world. As the number of eyeballs in the hobby continues to increase and virtually nobody being willing to sell a high condition copy of this card, it's why we've seen record-breaking sales over the last few years, and is why we're going to continue to see it happen. The PSA 8 copy on Collectable, the consigner of the card, he still retains some equity, so people do not want to lose exposure to this card, and with fractional ownership, now all of us have the ability to be able to buy shares of it. If you put $10,000 into a PSA 8 52 Mantle back in 2005, looking in 2021 now, you would have roughly $400,000. Comparatively, if you took that $10,000 and put in the S&P 500, it would now be worth roughly $55,000. So looking at the card market as a serious asset class is really important because the gains that we've seen in the high-end market over the last 15 years has been absurd. And when we talk about the greatest card ever made, I believe it's a conversation only between this 52 Topps Mantle and the T206 Honus Wagner. And why I believe the 52 Mantle comes out victorious in that debate is simply because what this 52 Topps set means for baseball cards in general, and the revolutionary ideas that were put into this set and how they've evolved over the last 70 years into what we see with modern sports cards. And I don't know what's going to come first, somebody hitting a 560-foot home run just like Mickey Mantle did, or one of the owners of this card in a PSA 10 actually being willing to sell it. So we appreciate you guys checking out this latest edition of Journey to Collectible, where we walk you through the stories of the most incredible items on the Collectible platform.